Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Beastmen led by Morker the Shadowgave and the Vampire Counts who are going to be led by Emperor Palpatine. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So here in the front line, we do have a couple of groups of elite infantry. I definitely think going with heavier, more resilient troops that have good leadership and good armor values is definitely a little bit better against Vampire Counts. Often things like Gore Herds and Ungors and things that do have frenzy or are a little bit low in the leadership department tend to just crumble against the vampires. So in total, we have two Bestigor herds and the Koroks Manrippers here in the middle. Koroks Manrippers very solid. Anti-large, armor piercing, good against vampire monsters, relatively resilient with high melee defense compared to the Bestigor herds. Just a solid choice in my opinion. We do have the Cow King here, Morker the Shadowgave. He's going to be going in there, summoning some Chaos Spawn. He's resilient, he's tough to snipe, he's a pretty good duelist. I definitely think he's very good in this matchup. On top of that, we got a Brave Shaman Battery with Lore of Death, so experimenting a little bit, seeing like the Vampire Counts, they have those Mana Battery characters that they just put basically the Rod of Corruption. Or what is it called? Some sort of rod that allows them to regenerate the magic. So I brought two Deathcasters. One of them has no abilities, and I kind of figured, I'm like, hey, the Brave Shaman with the Lore of Death isn't a terrible combatant in melee, so let's see how he does. I mean, on top of that, he's going to allow me to cast more spells. And we're also going to be going pretty hambone today with the Spirit Leech and Purple Sun. So we're not going to be using Fate of Buna, which actually would have been really good considering my opponent's army with two Blood Knights and just like all kinds of stuff going over there. But regardless, Purple Sun, very good at melting infantry and blobs of Graveguard, so we're going to be trying to get some value. We got the Butchers of Kalkengard. We got a Giant as well, so going pretty wild here. In the back, we've got one group of spears and then three groups of Centaurs with throwing axes to kite enemy cav, go after the mortis engines, that kind of stuff. So a pretty heavy elite army here for the Beastman. For my opponent, he's got a pretty wide army. So he's got a bunch of zombies in the front line. He's got the Tide, a secondary line of the Spearmen and the Graveguard. So I like this synergy, having the Graveguard and the Spearmen like this. If Minotaurs come in, the Spearmen can kind of help out a little bit. Graveguard, of course, very good against most Beastmen infantry. Bestigors will win in prolonged combat, but they're very good at holding. And if there isn't Mortis Engine draining, it's going to be pretty tough. So he's got the Mortis Engine, he's got a Corpse Cart, and the reason he's probably going it's typically in one-on-one combat, it's more optimal to spread your forces out like my Bestigors are, for example. But if he's trying to get everyone in the umbrella of the Corpse Cart to get the buffs and the Mortis Engine heals, this is definitely going to be very good. So he's got the Graveguard, he's got the Spears, some Skeleton Warriors here, he's got Emperor Palpatine. He totally kind of looks like an Emperor Palpatine. And he also has a Cackle just like him too, so I figured that would be appropriate. He's got Invocation of Heck, Raise Dead, all kinds of good stuff going on. In the back, he's got two Blood Knights, Varix Reavers, and a couple of groups of Black Knights. So it's going to be a very heavy cav force for sure. So I don't have too much anti-large, so hopefully the Spears and Minotaurs and the Giants can fend them off. So without further ado, guys, get the show on the road. So right now, just kind of circling about, feeling my opponent out. What he's probably going to end up doing is just sending the Black Knights after me. They do have the shields as well. And yes, I can kite them into the Shadow Realm, but with some good angling, they could still catch me if they're able to kind of, catch me slipping on my micro or something. But we get a couple of good kills there, down to 42 models initially. So the throwing axe is definitely going to pay for themselves versus all these heavy cav. The frontline engagement relatively underway here. You can see the Koroks Manrippers and the Bestigor herds going to be slamming into some zombies, which is always a fun sight to see. And the Minotaurs piling in as well with Morker, so everyone's going to get pretty beast wild in here. So they're coming in there with their halberds. Minotaurs are going to be punching in as well, and the Bestigors have a very big charge bonus, so they're definitely going to mangle these zombies incredibly quick, which is going to be nice. I probably will take almost no damage. But, I mean, that's good for my opponent. It absorbs the initial charge. That's a ton of damage that the Graveguard and more expensive spears could have taken, so I definitely like that strategy quite a bit. The Brave Shamans with the Lore of Death are also piling in, and it looks like he's going to be moving in the Mortis Engine now. So we do have these guys on skirmish mode. They're just going to be kiting the Black Knights, hopefully getting some value, but hey, you could probably catch one of them. They do get a little bit of acceleration on the charge. The Giant has gone after the Graveguard as well. And I kind of figured I could get the Giant on the Graveguard, and if the Mortis Engine comes in, I could come club it. But he does have these Blood Knights. I'm going to have to fall back. Purple Sun is about to go down. Purple Sun, won't you come? And it gets a massive damage spike on those Graveguard, just absolutely destroying them. Just 49 models. They're at full health. Man, Purple Sun can do a ton of work, so that was definitely worth it. A little bit more cost-effective than the Fated Buna, probably. I also popped the Jagged Dagger, so I'm going to be getting some good heals. And the Chaos Spawn instantly get used by Morker because it can, basically eats a low-life unit. The Giant does take quite a bit of damage, though, so very well played responding by my opponent there. I do have to fall back through my ranks, and he is going to pull back with the Mortis Engine and get a huge charge. So my Spears out here, yes, they have anti-large, but the Blood Knights plus Black Knights and Varix Reavers are just going to absolutely melt these guys. Plus the Chaos Spawn are pretty much almost dead. Over here, I do slip up a little bit. One of my Centaurs does get caught. The other two should be able to kite these Black Knights, so I think they're still online for the most part. Like, you can see half the group is here, and the other half is, like, kind of stuck behind the Black Knight. So a little bit of sloppy micro there, but not the end of the world. The Bestigors in the front line, crunching through the Skeleton Spearmen, definitely doing very well. My Deathcasters and Morker are holding back the Tide of Graveguard, and the Giant has been kind of reset a little bit. So I did pull him back to get him away from the Blood Knights, and now he's going to be re-engaging and hopefully doing some damage. And it looks like he kills a couple more, which is very nice. But a very even fight right now. Balance of Power just dead in the center. I did summon my Chaos Spawn back behind my opponent, to attack the corpse guard, but he did a really good job. He summoned zombies, zombies right on top of my chaos spawn, and that's going to keep me from getting to the corpse guard for free. So it's going to be a little bit tough, but we're going to be moving in there, going after the corpse guard, hopefully doing some damage. Mortis Engine, unfortunately, has been relatively free to go. Another purple sun coming down right here, so this is going to be the second cast. Definitely getting a lot of winds of magic, and it just decimates those forces, doing a ton of damage. But this one, unfortunately, kind of rotated the wrong way, so I probably could have cast it a little bit like tighter in the formation. That would have netted me some pretty good value. But we do have the Giant on the Mortis Engine now. The Koroks Man Rippers have been peeled off to fend off the Blood Knights and allowed the Giant to do his heavy lifting, so you can see they're going to be chasing the Mortis Engine now. So we basically kited those Black Knights out. We did lose one of these Centaurs with throwing axes, but we basically got 2 groups of Black Knights down, which is very nice. And at this point, we're going to be piling back in. So the Centaurs with throwing axes are going to be going after the Mortis Engine. Also have a Spirit Leech as well, so I could use that to bring this thing down. But the throwing axe is a very good answer against the Mortis Engine. So here, we're getting some good HP. It does about 400 damage right there. The Koroks Man Rippers over chasing those Blood Knights a little bit, so very sloppy play on the far side there. But nonetheless, we're doing good in most areas of the battle. Bounce and power is pretty damn even. But we do have some false inflation from the Chaos Spawn. And of course, the cycle charging from my opponent is really going to add up. He's been very good with his Varix Reavers, not saying it's sustained combat. He picks off Mount Spearman right here. Things are getting pretty hog wild. So the Giant's coming back in here. The Mortis Engine a little bit beat up, so I'm hoping to go after it right now. I think I do have a Spirit Leech queued up here in a moment. My opponent does get a fat invocation of Nehek right here. I probably should have been charging in my Centaurs and like trying to break down his chaff and his infantry here, but I was a little bit nervous because of those Blood Knights he had sitting in there. But regardless, we do finally get the Mortis Engine. You can see the Spirit Leech and the Giant's clubbing are able to take that bad boy out. So very good stuff from the Giant. The bounce power is in my favor a little bit, but vampire counts in general for the Beastmen, I think it's a very tough matchup for the Beastmen. It's very doable, but I think it's certainly hard because, you know, the terror routing is definitely something the Beastmen are very susceptible to, and my opponent still has a ton of caps. So even though I have best scores in Koroks Man Rippers, he's getting some really good sandwiching charges here, which is just beautiful. So here I made a bit of a mistake. I sent the Minotaurs out. So the Minotaurs, I was like, oh, there's some Black Knights over here, but I didn't really respect the fact that there's Blood Knights here as well, and there's still 36 of them. So I sent them out to deal with the Varix Reavers, and I also sent Morker with his Pimp Claw, but unfortunately he does have the Blood Knights, which are basically a hard counter against the Butchers of Kalkengard. Like, they're going to get melted so badly by the Blood Knights. I have my 2 Deathcasters fighting against the Hordes here. I have the Giant, I have the Koroks Man Rippers, but aside from that, I don't have a whole lot in the way of like, infantry and chaff units, but the Giant is definitely going to be tough to take down, but I suppose not for the Blood Knight. So he's going to start clubbing some of these skeletons, or the corpse guards actually, when I sent him out there. So I was like, I need to get rid of these buffs, kind of these more substantive units in his army, but the Invocation of Nehek doing a lot of good healing there. But yeah, you can see that Giant club definitely paying its dues. But the bounce power creeping back towards the middle as my Chaos Spawn disappear. Morker is surrounded by Blood Knights. They're not going to like melt him, but he's still taking quite a bit of damage from these bad boys. And over here, these Vestigores break off the battlefield. The Giant still going after the corpse guard. Like, I really think I should have been cycle charging like the backs of these Graveguard, but he has a lot of chaff left. He has these Graveguard. They've been kept alive by really good invocations of Nehek, as well as the corpse guard and the Mortis Engine providing those fat heals. And I don't have Invocation or Fate of Buna, so I had to use a Spirit Leech here. Granted, I wouldn't have had enough for the Fate of Buna because of the Purple Suns, but this would have been the best time for a Purple Sun. Just a huge Vampire Blob right here. I probably should have waited on that. And now you can see the bounce of power actually just a massive shift in my opponent's favor. Like, it went from being in my favor, like relatively, not handily, but to an extent. And at this point, he's able to come back here, and I'm just having a master out. The Koroks Man Ripper is getting worn down. My Brave Shaman's getting worn down. And that looks like it's going to be all she wrote for the Beastmen. So very well played to my opponent. That was an incredibly fun game. I thought I had it, but there was a lot of cab pressure, and those Blood Knights had some really good targets. He had the Giant, and you know, if you go with the Terrorgeist, it's a little bit tougher for them. Well, not the Terrorgeist, excuse me. Anyway, I just got confused there for a second. But the Blood Knights had a lot of good targets, is what I was trying to say. He had the Butchers of Kalkengard, he had the Giant. So the Blood Knights, even though I had the advantage with those units in the end game, the reserves he had of the Blood Knights were able to really drag down the Giant as well as the Butchers of Kalkengard. But yeah, it was a close game, and honestly, a few micro decisions just throughout the game for either of us could have sent the game in either direction. I think the Purple Suns definitely did very, very good. Casting it a little bit higher and tighter, or maybe more so on the second group of Graveguard would have been really nice. And also, I needed some more anti-large. I invested a lot in the Giant. I wanted to see how it would do. But had he brought double Terrorgeist or double Blood Knight, I feel like the Giant would have just gotten smashed. But it did a good job against the Mortis Engine, so there is some give and take there. But I feel like it probably doesn't pay for itself in a competitive environment. The Minotaurs, not bad. You can just kind of sit them on Graveguard. I think having a couple more groups of anti-large specialists, maybe even more throwing axes to kind of drag down the Blood Knights. I didn't really have enough to deal with the heavy cav charges, so it was very solid. And for my opponent's army, it was cool seeing Palpatine in action. I mean, the rest of his army was solid, very micro-intensive, but he did a good job. We were able to kite out those Black Knights, but they're dirt cheap. They're 700, so that definitely bought him a lot of time where he didn't have to deal with the throwing axes. I thought that was really good. So anyways, very well played to my opponent, Burek. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Beastman versus Vampire Count showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care. Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the High Elves led by the Crazy Pigeon Lady and the Dark Elves who are going to be led by Darth Malekith. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So up here in the Vanguard area, we do have two groups of the Illyrian Reaver Archers, definitely very powerful in this matchup. So number one, they have better combat stats than Dark Riders. I believe they have 32, 34, 27, and let's go ahead and look at the Dark Riders. So these are actually Dark Riders with shields, which are designed for melee combat, and they have 24, 28, and 26. So the Reaver Archers can beat them in melee. They can also out-kite them, and if your opponent decides to go with repeater crossbows, these guys can outdo them as well. They have better range, they can shoot while they're moving, they can chase them down. Definitely a very powerful unit. On top of that, we have the mighty Walmart Dragon. So the Walmart Dragon, definitely very solid with its breath attacks. The breath attacks, for its cost, I think it's 1,700 for the Walmart Dragon. It can breathe its Cheeto, Walmart breath all over any of the Dark Elf infantry and do a ton of damage. It's not going to be like as good of a monstrous duelist against like, let's say a Black Dragon or something like that. But if you're just using it to kill infantry and like terror route things, it's definitely pretty good for its cost. Taking some Reaper bolt throwers right there. And on top of that, if my opponent did go with like, you don't see it often, but if there was like a double Black Dragon or something, we could simply just use the Tempest to kind of lock them down and hopefully protect the dragon. So on top of that, we got the Pigeon Lady. On her pigeon here, she has Arcane and Forging, which is very good against like Malekith, Marathi, just essentially adds 30 seconds to their cooldowns and also does quite a bit of damage. We have the Tempest and Earthblood, and of course the Star of Averlorn bound item. For our infantry corps, two groups of the White Lions, they bring some good armor piercing, and if they're not in the front line against the Dark Elves, you just take the charge with the spears and follow up the White Lions. They can actually do some pretty good damage because that initial charge against them, it's them pretty close to their martial mastery, usually from like Harganeth or things like that. So if you can charge them in as like a secondary supporting unit, they tend to do pretty well in my experience. We do have the Scions in the middle, which are going to give that physical, I think it's like a global ward save. So yeah, it's just 12% damage resist to all nearby troops. Very powerful stuff. Two groups of spears, and that is it for our main army here. And for our mobile forces, we have Dragon Princes. Dragon Princes are just so damn good in matchups in which you don't really have to deal with like Fate of Buna type effects. Lord of Darkness does have like Soul Stealer and things like that, but really the Dragon Princes are just absolute beasts. They do a very, very good job. So we have those guys, and then in the forest we have the Fireborn. So the Fireborn are actually hidden here in the forest, and they're going to be sweeping through, making sure my opponent doesn't have any tricksy traps, which he actually does. He's got some Dark Riders, so it should be pretty wild. For my opponent's army, a front line of the Dread Spears mixed in with the Sisters of Slaughter. The Sister is definitely going to do massive damage against the Spearmen. So if he's able to get these guys on the Spearmen without them taking much damage, they can definitely just mince through my units. They have really, really good combat stats. 64 melee defense, 40 melee attack. Hit like trucks, definitely very tough to take down. But the Reaver Archer is very good at skirmishing. We do have the Walmart Breath, and then the Dragon Princes hopefully can whittle them down before the fight. He does have a Death Hag in his main line, and the Death Hag actually has some sort of a ability. We'll take a look in a minute here. He's got Malekith with the Soul Stealer, Power of Darkness, as well as Doombolt, and of course Gaze and Malice, which is bound. He's got a Cold One Chariot. He's got two groups of Cold One Knights for anti-large. Definitely going to get outclassed on these guys with the Dragon Princes. I mean, the Dragon Princes will outclass them. And two Dark Riders in the forest who look to be doing some skirmishing and, just harassment. Also the Reaper Bolt Thrower, which is shooting the Walmart Dragon, doing a little bit of damage. Over the course of a long fight, it definitely could. So anyways, you can see here out of the gates, the Cold One Chariot does have an armor-piercing crossbow, so it's actually doing some okay damage. But here comes the first Walmart Breath, just cheese and Doritos and just cheap food, just all over these Sisters of Slaughter here. And they do scoot forward at the last second, so my opponent was able to catch that. But nonetheless, we get some massive damage. I mean, that was just brutality. Basically half health off these guys. And I'm also going to be focusing them with the Reaver Archers. The Reaver Archer is going to do a lot of damage against their 5 armor. Although they do have bronze shields, very similar to like Slayers. They can like swat things out of the air, I guess. Or they have these like arm shield things. So Malekith, I think he's going to be casting a Soul Stealer on the Dragon, just doing everything he can to burn that thing down. Granted, I think it's a little bit more effective against other targets, but also another lesson here, guys. Don't be afraid to charge spears. If spears are marching at you and they're not braced, you're going to get that full charge bonus. So here comes the Dragon Princes, which is a massive erect charge coming into the Spearmen. So take a look at the cinematics first. Enjoy yourselves, treat yourselves, and then after that, we'll take a look at the HP damage. So just massive stuff coming in there. But look at the HP. It literally takes them down to half health, give or take. I mean, about 60%, but still massive value from those guys. In the forest, we were able to uproot the Dark Riders and catch those guys, so the Fireborn just massacring them with their bonus first large, just massive combat stats. And it looks like he's going to be coming in with the Cold One Knights, but I think he realizes at the last second there, the Fireborn, he's like, oh no, actually I don't want that fight. So the Walmart Dragon was going to come over there and help, also get out of line of sight of the Reaper Bolt Thrower, but alas, the main fight is underway. So over here, the Sisters of Slaughter still being picked apart by the Reavers. Over here we have a bit of a pitch fight, so I was able to catch his chariot, the Cold One Chariot with the Dragon Princes, and he sent some spears over as well. But the Pigeon Lady does have the Star of Averlorn if things get really kind of mucked up here. But Malekith was attacking, the Dread Spears were attacking. I didn't want to stay there and take that. But still, getting massive damage on these Sisters. The Dragon over here in the forest, we were able to kind of catch the Cold One Knights as they retreat. I think the Fireborn have 78 speed to the 66, so we're able to rampage them, which is brutal. We also have the Dragon here. We're able to get an Earthblood on him, so things are going very, very well right here for the Dragon Princes. Right now, I believe I was casting an Arcane Unforging on Malekith. Yeah, I think I accidentally canceled it for some reason. But the Dragon Prince is coming in for another charge. The Dread Spears were not braced, but I wasn't targeting them, so they don't take a ton of damage. But nonetheless, we do get the Arcane Unforging, which is going to kind of shut down his casts for the beginning of the fight here. And we will be popping a Star of Averlorn to keep these Dragon Princes healthy, and also attacking with the Trash Pigeon Lady herself. So the main fight of the infantry is about underway. And we've already taken like 1,000 gold off him with the Sisters. And I was actually just retreating through it. We just punted a bunch of them, which was pretty funny. So the Sisters of Slaughter doing very well. The Death Hag is in the main fight. The Sisters have engaged the White Lines, which they definitely should have gotten on the Spears because they don't have the best AP. The White Line's definitely going to trade very effectively with them. And also the Dread Spears are going to be shifting over. I think they wanted to kind of pile up on Malekith here. But the main fight in the back going very, very well. There was Spears there. There was armor-piercing missiles. But that Star of Averlorn just provides such huge healing. I'm taking some fire from the Reaper Bolt Thrower, but that heal from the Pigeon Lady is just huge. In the meantime, the Fireborn are just going to be chasing down the Cold One Knights, just skewering those guys, definitely doing their role-specific job here. He definitely should have used the Cold One Knights a little bit more defensively with his main army. And now I'm using the Reaper Archers just to slam into the back of his forces. Just the High Elf mobility, just too much for this Dark Elf force to handle here. So it looks like there's going to be an Earthblood going down. A Doom Bolt does come down in the main line, but doesn't do a whole lot of damage as I was moving. And Malekith is basically just surrounded by Spears now. The Sisters putting a little bit of a dent in the White Lines, but for the most part, the White Lines are getting the upper hand there. They were very beat up before the fighting started, so definitely favored my troops here. And the Walmart Dragon will be landing in just a moment to help out the Spears. So now we're going to be piling in. You can see the Fireborn as well as the Pigeon Lady just going after the Death Hag here in the main line. I'm going to have to take a look at that Death Hag ability and see what she actually has after this game, so I can get that for you guys next time. And the Reaper Archer is just very, very solid in the Dark Elf matchup, just kind of circling here and just getting ready to rear charge. I can chase down these routing Spearmen. Just so much dual purpose from these units. Definitely very valuable. And the Walmart Dragon, not a pushover in melee. I mean, yeah, he's not like as good as the Star Dragon or the Moon Dragon or any of the more expensive ones, but he's pretty powerful in this one, right? And with the supportive Spearmen, it's going to easily tear out these guys and burn them down pretty quick. So the Dragon doing some very good work. You can see he's breathing some Cheetos on those guys, which is pretty good. Death Hag and everyone pretty much crumbled at this point. Malekith, Malekith is pretty surrounded as well. He's not going to be able to do a whole lot on that Velociraptor. And the Trash Pigeon Lady's now coming in and trying to get her hands dirty a little bit. You can see she's there. She's got her little Care Bear star going. She's ready to go. And the Death Hag is indeed shattered with 122 HP. Reaver Archer's just chasing off the scraps. And that looks to be it. I think it's just basically Malekith that's going to break the Fireborn, just doing a ton of work this game. Up to 158 kills. You're able to kind of take out the Dark Riders, go after the Cold One Knights, just get good cycle charging on infantry. And that's pretty much going to be all she wrote. So it was a bit of a one-sided game, but I just wanted to show you guys the effectiveness of the Dragon Breath attacks. I also wanted to show you like how good the Dragon Princes can be, and also kind of illustrate the lesson that don't be afraid to charge Spears. If your opponent's army is advancing, the Spears aren't braced. I mean, we were able to essentially, what does a Dread Spear cost? Like 550 or something? I forget off the top of my head, but yeah, with some chevrons, easily around that much, right? You're able to get like 400 gold worth of value for essentially free by charging Spears. I see a lot of people on ladder, like I'll have some like Ungor Spears or something very cheap on the flank. They'll have like heavy cav and they won't charge simply because they're like, oh, those are Spears. It's so ingrained in people's minds that like it's not a good idea to charge them, but it usually pays off. I mean, some people are going to be very quick and be able to brace, but most people like don't brace that quickly if there's other things going on in the battlefield. And you can, usually get your money's worth. Also, the Reaver Archer is just an absolute beast here, able to pick apart the Sisters and do some heavy lifting. I think it definitely is a little bit harder for the High Elves to handle like Harganeth Executioners and things like that because they have the heavy armor, so the charges aren't going to be as impactful. The Reaver Skirmishing isn't going to be as good. That's where the Sun Dragon comes in because his breath attacks as well as his AP melee attacks can do a ton of damage against the Harganeth Executioners. But yeah, as far as the army goes, Malekith's a good choice. Having a Death Hag in the front line is cool. I don't know if I suppose it's not terrible, but she didn't have much to support. The Dread Spears and the Sisters were just so tattered by the time they got there that it was a pretty one-sided affair. The Dark Riders, I think he should have just played a bit more of a defensive game. He had the artillery, although he didn't have too many other range tools. I mean, I could have probably breath attacked the Reaper Bolt Thrower, but using the Cold One Knights, so you have the two Sisters in the front line. You have them, you have the Dread Spears on the other side. You have two Dread Spears offset from your formation. The Cold One Knights are riding up with your main formation. So when I charge his stuff, he then countercharges me, uses supporting magic. He needed to keep everything a little bit higher and tighter. So that would just be my 2 cents for that game. So anyways, well played to my opponent, Overlord. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that High Elf game, and we will see you guys next time.